like, what a blessing to be here for me and my family. So I appreciate that, and we are not going to be done. So I will see you guys next week.
Well, that was a fucking lie. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Spike NFC North podcast. As always, my name is Lex, representing the Green Bay Packers. And in this video, we're going to kind of dive in and do a full season wrap-up of the scope of the Packers in the 25-26 football season. Obviously, it was full of highs and lows. There's a bunch of statistical analysis I'll get into a little bit here. But before I even do, I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching the show. And as a Packers fan, I legitimately do feel good about, the personnel that we have on this team, at least currently. I think that our organization is finally at a point where, either our traditional problems are going to come to a head, or we're finally going to have to open this thing up and reevaluate some long-standing members in the organization. But with that being said, I'm going to start off with the offense here, and I want to talk about the first big highlight, and I think it's Jordan Love. Jordan Love, obviously my QB. I love the guy. He was a Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee. He threw in 15 games, he do 291 for 39 passes, which is about a 66.3% passing percentage, which is, kind of acceptable. He did throw for 23 TDs. He threw for 6 picks. Now, the interception thing is huge because a lot of people have talked about Jordan Love and said that he's one of those quarterbacks that's kind of a gunslinger. He definitely puts the ball in harm's way. But as far as, his protecting the ball of the season, dude, 6 interceptions on the year, with the Packers offense as a whole only having 7. 6 interceptions is absolutely acceptable. I mean, granted, one of them was absolutely terrible, but I mean, it's one of those things where, dude, this quarterback is still coming and finding his field play. I think that there's, a lot to be said with the Packers offense literally tying 3 ways for first with the Chicago Bears and the Philadelphia Eagles at 7 interceptions on the year for their offense, and I think that it's really unique to really consider that, these 3 teams had such low interception rates for, a bunch of different reasons. Obviously, the Philadelphia Eagles are one of those teams that their offense just doesn't really have, or this past season at least didn't have a consistent identity. The Chicago Bears definitely are a team that kind of only threw when they had to. Ben Johnson was very, 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 very calm and collected as far as the risk taking, as far as play calling on offense is concerned. But the Green Bay Packers, we typically play backyard football. I mean, obviously, in the Rodgers days, we were definitely a deep passing threat, especially with, the management of the offsides penalties. Free plays were definitely something that Aaron Rodgers is a specialty at. And I think, in this season, all bullshit aside, I think the only thing I'd like to see Jordan Love do is kind of find a way to control and manipulate the defensive lines that are in front of him. I mean, he's leading this offense. But I mean, I think that all bullshit aside, though, 291 for 439, 66.3, 6 picks on the year, fucking, 6 interceptions on the year. Dude, I love the guy. I think that, his play style is definitely evolving. And, that could be, due to maybe some of the Matt LaFleur, Adam Stenavich juju that's going on. But, all in all, dude, Jordan Love is our franchise quarterback. We did it again. And I think that the sky's going to be the limit. I mean, obviously, with the rate he's getting paid at, I think that that's definitely something to consider. A lot of people expect more. But without a shadow of a doubt, I can say that, even though in that playoff game against the Bears, which I might get into a little bit later, our offense kind of stalled there. But more so that was on our defense. And, I think that was mainly due to the offense getting off the field so quick. So that's definitely more of a coaching thing, I think. But I think Jordan Love played fucking amazing. Some of his highlights this season, dude, he's starting to get there. I do think that, him sitting behind Aaron for those couple of years is really starting to manifest. I think he's definitely starting to develop his own play style. And I think that one of the things that I still love about him is how synonymous Green Bay quarterbacks have been with that back foot throw. I think that that's definitely something that's special. And then this next season, we're going to have Luke Getsy, I'm pretty sure, coming to being our quarterback coach. So there's a bunch of things there that we could really look at and just kind of, there's definitely some things we want to be consistent moving forward, and there's definitely some things we want to address. But I mean, I think as a Green Bay Packers fan, dude, as far as Jordan Love as our quarterback, you should have nothing but optimism. I think that, a lot of the other, top, rankings of, most effective quarterbacks in this football league, Jordan Love's left off of a lot of the lists. A lot of people don't have confidence in this guy. I do. Not just because I'm a Packers fan, not just because I'm a diehard Packers fan, because I really think that Jordan Love is actually that guy to elevate this offense. Him in tandem with a couple of the other players on this list. But all in all, my evaluation of Jordan Love this season is I saw growth. I think that our offensive scheme could allow for him to throw the ball a little bit more, but, I think that there was definitely some games here in plays called by Matt LaFleur that were definitely a little bit out of desperation. So maybe I'd love to give Jordan more control and run less on first down, but that's an offensive thing as a whole, dude. Number 2, Josh Jacobs, and he played in 16 regular season games, 16 regular season games and 1 playoff game. He did miss week 12 with the Giants, but luckily Emmanuel Wilson came in and backed him up. Wilson, before I get to Jacobs, he came in with 125 attempts with 496 yards and 3 TDs. So he's definitely a really good tandem back, at least for how we're using him, especially on the times we relied on him a little bit more. But Josh Jacobs is still our number 1 dog. And Josh Jacobs himself, he had 234 attempts and he had 929 yards and 13 touchdowns on the year. But I mean, okay, I'll say this, like, for what you want from like a premier first string running back, and especially in the NFC, is you want at least a minimum 1,500 yards. I think that there's definitely something to be said about the Packers O-line injuries. I think that there's a lot of things there that if you really want to look at them objectively, certain players have definitely been placed in the wrong place. And that's something that's going to be reevaluated, I'm sure, with the personnel changes that are looming, and we'll talk about that more on the full panel show. But I think that there's definitely something to be said about Josh Jacobs and the fact that we need to keep him. I saw a couple of people buzzing on certain social media sites and talking about trade Jacobs for this guy. Fuck no. Josh Jacobs is absolutely the back that we traded. And him, I think he's only 28 or so. Dude, he has so much promise. And I really think that once we get our O-line consistency solved, this guy is going to have a record season. And I have no doubts in Josh Jacobs. Honorable mentions outside of that is Tucker Kraft. God rest Tucker Kraft. Love you, buddy. Like, one of the most on track to be one of the most, game-changing tight ends in the National Football League this season prior to his ACL injury. But Kraft himself had 32 catches, 489 yards, and 6 touchdowns. And that's not even anywhere near a full season from him. And I definitely noticed a shift in this Green Bay offense as far as, who was getting the most shots, who was getting to run, the most catchable routes. And I think that was mainly due to the fact that Tucker Kraft went down. And I think that he's going to be a huge piece of our offense moving forward. And I'm hoping that Adam Stenavich and Matt LaFleur are actually cooking at something different because, the way he was, destroying teams this year, especially for the first, maybe 7 or 8 weeks, dude, he's a threat to be to force to be reckoned with. Excuse me. If we're gonna really talk about it, dude, Tucker Kraft is definitely gonna be a Green Bay Packer. Well, I think Goody actually said something about where they're already, preemptively talking about contract negotiations to keep him around because I absolutely think that he's worth the money. I think that Tucker Kraft is a stand-up human being, and I think that there's also something to be said about the confidence that he brings to this team when he's simply clutch. Because I think that Tucker Kraft might be our most clutch player on offense, and that could be due to the routes of the scheme, but I'm always going to believe in Tucker Kraft. Another honorable mention coming back from injury, Christian Watson coming in, late in the season, he had 35, I can't remember, I think 35 catches for 611 yards. 611 yards off 35 catches. It's fucking crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy. 6 TDs on the year. Christian Watson, absolutely our comeback player of the year. And I know that there was a lot of people up in the air when we're worrying about, is Christian Watson going to be that guy that, proves to stay healthy and work it out? Because, we all can't deny the fact that he's been playing with injuries. A lot of people used to call him made of glass. This season, he definitely came back with a bang. And I think that, the offseason, cushion year they gave him on his contract definitely helped with his confidence, and I'm looking forward to see a lot of good things about him, especially when we get to a point where we can get him. And actually my next person on the list, which is Matthew and Golden, on the field at the same time. Watson and Golden together, dude, that's gonna be insane. And I really hope that we kind of get back more to our roots as far as using the receivers against these secondaries, especially with ours being as weak as it is. But that's a whole nother thing, dude. But all in all, the Green Bay Packers offense this season, Matthew Golden didn't finish the regular season with a TD. He did get one in the playoff game, so I was good to see him get his first one. But I think that he's going to be stepping up on the roster because, there's questions up in the air with Romeo Doubs, who also has a great season for us. I'll talk more about that on the full panel show coming up next week. But I think there's a lot of room for growth on this offense, but I'm really confident in the pivotal players that we have in place. I think it's one of those things where you just really have to look at it and, kind of, especially postseason after the Super Bowl, all the emotions have kind of faded away and you really just got to look at it. Because, we're Packers fans. We don't give up easily. But, with that being said, I went to the offense in detail. The defense I'm going to go a little bit less into because there's going to be a lot less consistencies as far as how that operates next season with the loss of Jeff Hafley. And, congrats again to him for getting his head coach job at the Miami Dolphins. But, him taking a couple of coaches away and, the potential for him to take Malik Willis and Romeo Doubs. I just don't really want to use last season's metrics. I guess defense, really, when offense stalled, defense was on the field too long. And I think that all in all, dude, our defense showed improvements, especially once Micah Parsons was on the field. I mean, Micah Parsons as a whole, oh my God, let me talk about this guy. Let me talk about him. If I'll talk about the defense, I'll talk about him. Absolutely pioneered this team and is a player I am absolutely glad to have on our side. Micah Parsons, since that one sack, and he didn't really get one on Caleb Williams. He got a couple on Goff, and it's I love having him as a Green Bay Packer. And I believe in the personnel and players that we have in place. For this whole thing to finally be righted now. We can talk controversially about the Matt LaFleur coaching things. I personally feel like I've already talked about it enough in our other content. But all in all, there's a lot of changes. We're going to have Johnathan Gannon coming in, being our defensive coordinator next year, who last time he was a defensive coordinator, he used to be the coach of the Arizona Cardinals when he was previously a defensive coordinator, because he was not that good of a head coach, to be fair. He had the number 2 ranked defense in the NFL at the Philadelphia Eagles. So, I mean, I'm not going to speak on him too much. I haven't even heard him at press conference. And I kind of feel like it's unfair to kind of put that thing out there. But all in all, dude, I'm still a Green Bay Packers fan. I will always be a Green Bay Packers fan. And I feel exceptional about how this team is forming. I don't like, a lot of our play calls and a lot of the coaching inconsistencies that we have, especially when we're faced under, a scenario of adversity. But dude, we're Packers fans. We're used to this. I think that Rich Bisaccia leaving on special teams, I'm hoping that the organization looks at, the personnel that are put on that unit and sees the value in it. Because, that's why the Seattle Seahawks took the lead in the Super Bowl, and that's why Sam Darnold has a ring now. Sam Darnold has now won more playoff games than most Packers QBs, which is crazy. And that's a disturbing fact, But it is what it is, though. My name is Lex. Thank you guys so much for watching this Packers postseason review. There'll be definitely more off-season content. I just had to pop the cherry on it. And also, thank you guys so much for sticking around. I know I wanted to keep this video short and didn't want to talk too long. It's just me here. There's not anything exciting going on. But, dude, it's always go, Pack, go. I feel great. Jordan Love is a guy. Jeff Hafley lied. But on to the next season. Love you guys. See you in the next episode. Have a good night.